The council room was quiet when Ambassador Kelleher walked in. She was tall, taller than any human, with blue scales that covered her body. Her wings were folded against her back, but everyone could see them shake. She was scared, and everyone in the room knew it. Jake Morrison sat in his chair and watched her. He was a human captain, about 35 years old, with brown hair and a face that showed he had spent many years in space. He wore the uniform of Earth's space fleet. For the past 6 months, he had been working with different alien species, trying to build friendships between humans and the rest of the galaxy. Kelleher hit her hand on the table. The sound made everyone jump. Her scales changed color from blue to red. Jake had learned that when draconids turned red, they were upset or afraid. 3 weeks, she said. Her voice was strange, like music and speaking mixed together. 3 weeks since our babies disappeared. We have looked in 17 different star systems. We have asked thousands of people questions. We have found nothing. Lisa Chen sat next to Jake. She was his second in command on the ship. She leaned forward in her chair. How many are missing? She asked. 7 babies, Kelleher answered. They are from the royal family. They are the future of our people. They are very young, only 3 months old. They need warmth all the time. They need someone to take care of them. If we do not find them soon, they will go into a deep sleep. And if no one wakes them up the right way, they will die. Jake knew a little bit about draconid babies. He had read about them when he started this job. The babies could go into a special sleep if they got too cold or too scared, but they needed their parents to wake them up. Without their parents, they would sleep forever and never wake up. The council will give any help you need, Kelleher continued. We think someone took them past our borders. Maybe they are near human space now. Many of the aliens in the room turned to look at Jake and the other humans. Humans were new to space travel. They had only invented faster-than-light ships 40 years ago. Many aliens did not trust humans yet. They thought humans were dangerous or stupid. Jake stood up. Ambassador Kelleher, he said, in a calm voice. If the babies are anywhere near human space, we will use every ship we have to search for them. I promise you this. Kelleher looked at him with her golden eyes. They were like a cat's eyes, with a straight line down the middle instead of a round center. She looked at him for a long time. Then she nodded her head slowly. Your people are young, Captain Morrison, but you have shown you can do hard things. I accept your help. When the meeting ended, Lisa walked with Jake down the hallway. You know our commanders will not be happy about this, she said. We do not have enough ships. We are already busy helping the new colonies. I know, Jake said. He pulled up a small computer screen from his wrist. But those are children out there, Lisa. They are babies. Also, if we help the draconids with this, maybe the other aliens will start to trust us more. Maybe they will stop thinking we are going to destroy everything. Lisa smiled a little. You always think good things will happen. So what is your plan? I am going to ask if I can take the Ranger and go search myself. It is a small ship, so command will not miss it too much. But it is fast enough to search a lot of space quickly. You mean we are taking the Ranger? Lisa said. You are not doing this alone, Jake smiled. I would not want to do it alone anyway. The next day, Earth's Space Command said yes. The Terran scout ship Ranger could go search for the missing babies. The crew had 15 people on it. They all got ready to leave. They thought this would be a simple rescue mission. They had no idea that what they would find would change everything between humans and the rest of the galaxy. Jake stood on the bridge of the Ranger. As they left the station, he looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, 7 small dragon babies were alone and scared. Maybe they were cold. Maybe they were already in the deep sleep. He did not know. But he knew one thing. He was going to find them. The Ranger moved away from the station and jumped into faster-than-light speed. The stars stretched into lines as they flew. Jake thought about what Kelleher had said. 3 weeks the babies had been missing. 3 weeks was a long time for such young creatures to be alone. He looked at Lisa. She was working at her station, setting their course. He looked at Chris Parker, the young man who watched the sensors. He looked at all of his crew. They were good people. They would do whatever it took to find those babies. Where do we start, Captain? Chris asked. Jake pulled up a map of space on the big screen. The frontier territories, he said. The places where no one lives. The places where someone could hide something and no one would find it. That is a lot of space to search, Lisa said. Then we better get started, Jake replied. The Ranger flew through space, moving from one star system to another. They searched planets. They searched old stations. They searched empty parts of space where nothing should be. For 11 days, they found nothing. The crew started to get tired. They started to wonder if they would ever find the babies. But Jake would not give up. Every night, Before he went to sleep, he thought about those 7 small creatures. He thought about their parents, waiting and hoping. He thought about Kellera's scared face. He would find them. He had to. On the 11th day, something changed. Chris called out from his station. "Captain, I have something. It is a strange energy reading. It is about 2 light hours away from where we are now." Jake walked over to look at Chris's screen. "What kind of energy?" "It turns on and off," Chris said. "Like something is broken, or like a signal that someone is sending." Lisa looked at her map. "There is nothing out here. No colonies, no stations, no mines, nothing. Which makes it exactly the kind of place someone would hide stolen babies," Jake said. "Set a course, Lisa. Let us go see what it is." The Ranger turned and flew toward the signal. Jake felt his heart beat faster. Maybe this was it. Maybe they had finally found something. 3 hours later, they arrived. What they saw was not what they expected. It was an old ship, floating in space. The ship was from Earth, but it was very old. At least 20 years old. Parts of the ship were broken. It was spinning slowly in the dark. "The hull is damaged," said Danny Wright, the engineer, "but some parts still have air in them. And Captain, that energy signal is coming from inside the ship." "Are there any people alive in there?" Jake asked. Chris shook his head. "I cannot tell. The ship's metal is blocking my scans. We would need to go inside to know for sure." Jake made his choice quickly. "Lisa, you come with me. Chris, Danny, get your spacesuits on. We are going to that ship." 4 of them put on spacesuits and left the Ranger. They used magnetic cables to pull themselves to the old ship. They went in through a broken door. Inside, the ship was dark. Only their helmet lights let them see. The halls were small and full of floating garbage. "Stay alert," Jake said. His hand touched the gun on his belt. "We do not know what is in here." They moved deeper into the ship. They followed the energy signal. It got stronger as they got closer to the cargo area. Danny opened the door by hand because the power was not working. When the door opened, they all stopped and stared. Someone had changed the cargo room. There were 7 small boxes along one wall. Each box was the right size for something as big as a large dog. The boxes had power, but not much. The power was almost gone. "Are those ... double quotes," Lisa started to say. "The babies," Jake finished. He ran to the closest box. Through the frosted window, he could see a small shape. It was a draconid baby, with dull scales and its body curled up tight. "They are in the deep sleep," Chris said. He scanned the box. "They are barely alive, but they are alive." "Who would do this?" Danny asked. He sounded angry. "Someone who wanted money," Lisa said. She looked at the control panel. "These boxes keep them alive, but just barely. Just enough to be worth something." Jake's hands became fists. "Can we move them to the Ranger safely?" "The boxes can be moved," Danny said. "But Captain, look at this." He pointed to a meter on the box. "They have maybe 6 hours of power left. After that, then we work fast," Jake said. "Lisa, go back to the Ranger. Get the medical room ready. Chris, Danny, start taking these boxes off the ship. I want all 7 on our ship in 1 hour." The team worked fast and carefully. One by one, they disconnected the boxes and moved them to the Ranger. Jake watched each box being moved. He would not trust machines to do this. These were living creatures, babies who needed help. When all 7 boxes were safe in the medical room, Jake called his top crew together. They stood around the boxes, looking at the small sleeping dragons inside. Each baby was a different color: red, green, purple, bronze, silver, and 2 that were bright blue. "We have a problem," Jake said. "These babies need to wake up soon, or the deep sleep will become permanent. But Ambassador Kellara told us that only their parents can wake them up safely. They need a special sound that only their family can make. So we get them back to Draken Prime as fast as we can," Lisa said. "That will take 3 weeks, even at top speed," Chris said. "The boxes do not have enough power for that long." "Then we find another way," Jake said firmly. "Danny, I want you to study everything we have about draconid biology. There must be something we can do to keep them alive until we get to their homeworld." For the next few days, the Ranger flew as fast as it could toward draconid space. Danny and Kelly Foster, the ship's medic, worked all day and all night. They found a way to connect external power to the boxes. This gave them more time, but the babies were getting weaker. On the 15th day, alarms went off in the medical room. "Captain to medical now," someone called over the ship's speakers. Jake ran down the hallway. When he got to medical, he saw Danny and Kelly working on one of the boxes. It was the smallest one, the red dragon baby. "What is happening?" Jake asked, breathing hard from running. "The smallest one," Kelly said. Her hands moved fast over the controls. Its body is failing. Even with the external power, it cannot stay in the deep sleep. It is going to wake up, and without the right conditions, without its parent, it will die. Jake looked at the small red dragon through the window. It was so tiny, smaller than all the others. It is the runt, he said quietly. Danny looked up. His eyes showed how desperate he felt. Captain, I have been studying their biology for days. The special sound they need. It is not just about sound. It is about warmth. It is about feeling a heartbeat. It is about feeling safe. It is biological. Yes, but it is also emotional. What are you saying? I am saying maybe it does not have to be a draconid parent. Maybe it just has to be someone who can give what a parent would give. Warmth, safety, a steady heartbeat that the baby can feel. Lisa had followed Jake to medical. She shook her head. That is a big guess, Danny. We could make things worse. But Jake was already walking toward the box. Open it, Captain. Kelly started to argue. Open it, Kelly. That is an order. Kelly did not want to, but she obeyed. She pressed buttons on the control panel. The box made a hissing sound. The top slid open. Cold air came out, like opening a freezer. Then Jake looked down at the smallest draconid baby he had ever seen. That it was no bigger than a house cat. Its scales should have been bright red, but they were dull gray instead. Its wings were pressed tight against its body. It was not moving. Jake could barely see it breathing. Jake did not think. He just acted. He reached into the box and carefully picked up the baby dragon. It was cold, much too cold. It felt wrong. He held it against his chest, over his heart. He could feel the tiny beat of its heart through his uniform. Come on, little one, he whispered. Do not give up. Please do not give up. The medical room was silent except for the beeping machines. Jake stood there holding the dying baby dragon. He tried to share his warmth with it. He willed it to live. He thought about Kellera's face when she talked about the missing babies. He thought about the parents who were waiting and hoping. Then he felt it. Just a small movement, but it was something. The baby dragon twitched a little. Jake held it closer, pressing it against his chest where it was warmest. Its heart rate is going up, Kelly said softly. She was watching her screen. Captain, I think it is working. Over the next hour, the baby's color slowly started to come back. The dull gray changed to light red, then to darker red, then to bright crimson. Its breathing got stronger and more steady. Jake did not move. He just stood there, holding the small creature, giving it his warmth. Finally, the baby dragon opened its eyes. They were gold, just like Kalara's eyes. They looked at Jake with a sharpness that surprised him. This was not a simple animal. This was an intelligent being. The baby made a small chirping sound. Then it pressed itself harder against Jake's chest, right over his heart. It made soft, happy noises, while Lisa said quietly. She was smiling. I guess you are a parent now, Captain. Jake looked down at the tiny dragon. It was making content sounds as it felt his body heat. 1 down, he said. 6 to go. News traveled fast through the small ship. Within minutes, everyone knew that Captain Morrison had woken one of the dragon babies. Crew members started coming to medical, asking if they could help with the others. Sir, if you can do it, maybe we can too, said Lieutenant Amy Sullivan. She worked in communications. She was small with kind eyes. Everyone on the ship knew she loved taking care of things. I mean, if they just need warmth and a heartbeat, we all have that. Jake looked down at the baby dragon still pressed against his chest. It had curled into a ball. Its small claws held onto his uniform gently. It seemed to be sleeping peacefully. The idea seemed crazy, but it had worked. Kelly, what do you think? He asked. Kelly looked at her screens, then at the baby dragon. Medically speaking, it is doing well. Temperature is normal now. Heart rate is stable. Brain activity is good. Whatever you are doing, Captain, it is working. Danny showed a picture on a screen in the air. I have been looking at the data. When dragon babies are with their parents, their heartbeats match. It is how they control their body temperature. The captain's heartbeat is giving the baby that anchor. But what happens when we need to put them back in the boxes? Lisa asked. We cannot carry them for 3 weeks straight. Actually, Danny said, moving the picture around. I think once they have bonded with a caretaker and become stable, they might be okay in the boxes again. The first waking is the important part. After that, they should be able to keep themselves alive. Should be, Lisa repeated. She did not sound sure. There is only one way to find out, Jake decided. Let us wake the others. Amy, pick a box. Lisa, you too. Danny, Kelly, we need you to watch their vital signs. Over the next few hours, 4 more babies were carefully taken out of their boxes. Amy took a small green one that chirped excitedly when it woke up. Lisa got a deep purple baby that seemed very curious. It tried to climb up to her shoulder right away. Danny woke a bronze-colored one that was playful and full of energy. Kelly got a calm silver baby that just blinked at her slowly before settling down to rest. But 2 babies were still in their boxes. They were the blue twins. They are twins, I think, Danny said, looking at his screen. Their biological signs are almost the same, and they are both in worse condition than the others were. The twin babies were both bright blue. They were bigger than the other babies. Through the box windows, Jake could see they were holding on to each other even in the deep sleep. We need 2 more people, Jake said. Who wants to volunteer? Ensign Marcus Webb stepped forward. He was a quiet engineer, about 28 years old. I will do it, sir. I will too, said Lieutenant Graham Hayes. He was the ship's tactical officer. He was a big man who used to be in the military. His hands looked rough, but his face looked kind. They woke the twin babies at the same time. For a scary moment, neither one moved. Then, both suddenly gasped. Their eyes opened wide. Marcus and Graham each held one baby. The babies immediately reached for each other, making upset chirping sounds. Bring them together, Kelly said quickly. The 2 men moved closer. The babies touched each other. Right away, the upset sounds stopped. The twins pressed against each other while also leaning into the warmth of their human caretakers. They need to be close, Danny said, watching them. That is probably why they were getting worse, faster. They were separated in the boxes. For the rest of the trip to Draconid space, the Ranger became an unexpected nursery. The 7 babies were out of the boxes permanently now. They needed constant care. They had to be fed special nutrient paste every few hours. Their body temperature had to be checked all the time, and they absolutely could not be away from their chosen humans for more than a short time without getting upset. Jake quickly learned that the small red baby, which the crew started calling Ember, had a strong personality. It was stubborn and demanding, but also very loyal. Whenever Jake put it down to do his work, Ember would cry loudly until Jake picked it up again. You know this is going to make commanding the ship hard, Lisa said one day. She watched Jake try to read reports while Ember slept against him. I have dealt with worse things, Jake replied. He turned a page on his datapad very carefully so he did not wake Ember. Besides, we only have to do this for another week and a half. But as the days passed, something unexpected happened. The crew members who were taking care of the babies began to bond with them in ways no one had thought possible. It was not just about keeping the babies alive anymore. It was becoming something deeper. Amy's green baby, which everyone called Jade, would sing little songs that made everyone on the ship feel calm. The sounds were beautiful and seemed to have a magical quality. When Jade sang, people smiled and felt peaceful. Lisa's purple baby, called Violet, learned to help with navigation. The baby had a natural sense of space that was better than even the ship's computers. When Lisa was plotting a course, Violet would chirp and point with a small claw, and the course would always be more efficient. The bronze baby, Copper, followed Danny everywhere. It was fascinated by engineering and always tried to help with repairs. Sometimes Copper would hand Danny the wrong tool, but the baby was learning fast. Kelly's silver baby, Luna, had an almost supernatural ability. It could sense when anyone on the ship was sick or hurt before any symptoms showed. Luna would alert Kelly by flying to her and making urgent sounds, and Kelly would find the person and help them before they even knew they were unwell. The Sapphire twins, Sky and Storm, had formed a deep bond with Marcus and Graham. The 4 of them worked together in ways that seemed almost like telepathy. When one twin wanted something, the other would know, and Marcus and Graham seemed to understand what both babies needed without words. One evening, the crew ate dinner together in the mess hall. They had started doing this to make it easier to take care of the babies. Chris Parker, the sensor officer, looked up from his food. Captain, he said, I have been watching Draconid communications. The whole Empire knows we have the babies now. We are kind of famous. Famous in a good way or a bad way? Lisa asked. Good, I think. Ambassador Kalara has been sending updates about their recovery. Apparently, what we are doing, humans caring for Draconid babies, has never happened before. No other species has ever successfully woken sleeping babies without blood relatives being there. Jake stroked Ember's head gently. The baby made a purring sound, like a cat but deeper. We are just doing what needed to be done, maybe, Chris said. But to them, it is much more than that. As the Ranger got closer to Draconid space, Jake found himself thinking about what would happen when they had to give the babies back. They had only been together for a couple of weeks, but it felt like much longer. He knew the rest of the crew felt the same way. These were not human children. They were the future of an alien royal family. They belonged with their own people. Jake kept telling himself this, but Ember would nestle closer against his chest, small claws holding onto his uniform like the baby was afraid to let go. One night, Jake could not sleep. He got up and walked to the observation deck. Ember was sleeping in a small heated bed in his quarters, but Jake could not stay away for long. The baby would wake up and get upset if he was gone too long. Lisa found him there, looking out at the stars. Violet was on her shoulder, also looking out at space. Could not sleep either, Lisa asked. Too much thinking, Jake admitted. Lisa, what are we doing? These babies, they have bonded with us. What happens when we get to Dracon Prime and have to hand them over to people they do not know? I have been thinking about that too, Lisa said quietly. Violet made a soft chirping sound and nuzzled against her neck. I do not have an answer, but I know we cannot keep them. They are not ours. I know, Jake said. I just wish there was another way. The next morning, the Ranger received a message from Draconid Space. It was from Ambassador Kalara herself, Captain Morrison, her image said on the screen. I have received reports of the baby's condition. What you and your crew have done is beyond anything we could have hoped for. The Empress herself wishes to meet you when you arrive. She wants to see her daughter. Jake felt his stomach tighten. Her daughter, yes, the small red one you saved first. Ember, I believe you call her. She is the Empress's firstborn child, the heir to the throne. After the message ended, Jake sat in his chair on the bridge. He looked down at Ember, who was awake and playing with a small piece of fabric from his uniform. The baby that he had held against his chest, willing it to live, was royalty, the future ruler of an entire empire. Well, Ember, he said softly, I guess you are even more special than I thought. Ember chirped happily, not understanding and not caring about titles or thrones. The baby just wanted to play and be warm and be near Jake. The days passed quickly. The crew tried to prepare themselves for saying goodbye to the babies, but it was hard. The babies had become part of their lives, part of their daily routines, part of their hearts. On the last day before they reached Dracon Prime, Jake called a crew meeting. All 7 babies were there with their caretakers. Tomorrow we arrive at the Draconid homeworld, Jake said. Tomorrow we give these babies back to their families. I want everyone to be ready for that. It is going to be hard, but it is the right thing to do. What if they do not want to go? Amy asked quietly. Jade was wrapped around her neck, sleeping peacefully. They are babies, Kelly said gently. They will adapt. They will be with their own kind. They will have everything they need. But even as Kelly said the words, Luna chirped sadly, as if the baby understood what was being discussed. That night, Jake held Ember close. The baby was bigger now than when they first met, stronger, healthier. The dull gray scales had become brilliant crimson. Ember could almost fly now, managing short glides across the room. Tomorrow you go home, Jake whispered to the sleeping baby. Your real home, with your real mother. You will be an empress someday. You will do amazing things. Ember stirred in sleep, making a small sound, pressing closer to Jake's chest, where the baby always felt safest. Jake did not sleep that night. He just held Ember and watched the stars pass by outside his window. He thought about the moment he had first lifted this small, cold creature from the box. He thought about how Ember's heart had barely been beating. He thought about how he had willed the baby to live with everything in him, and he thought about tomorrow, when he would have to let go. The next morning, the Ranger came out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Dracon system. What they saw took their breath away. 12 massive Draconid warships were waiting for them. Each ship was huge, making the small Ranger look like a toy. The ships had hulls that glowed with beautiful bioluminescent patterns that pulsed with light. They are calling us, Captain, Chris announced. They want us to go directly to Dracon Prime. Ambassador Kalara is asking to come aboard our ship. Jake looked down at Ember. The baby was awake and looking at the view screen that showed the Draconid ships. Ember made a curious chirping sound, tilting its head. Tell the ambassador she is welcome, Jake said, but warn her about what she is going to see. 20 minutes later, Ambassador Kalara appeared in the Ranger's transport room. She had 2 royal guards with her and what looked like a medical team. The ambassador was even taller in person, almost 8 feet tall. Her wings nearly touched the ceiling, but when she saw Jake holding Ember against his chest, she stopped moving. Captain Morrison, she said softly, is that ... one of the babies? Yes, this is Ember. At least, that is what we have been calling her. Carla moved forward slowly. She reached out one clawed hand toward Ember. The baby sniffed it, then made a dismissive chirp and buried its face against Jake's chest. Kalara's eyes went wide. It has bonded with you. All 7 have bonded with my crew, Jake said. It was the only way to save them. They were dying. Show me the others, Kalara asked. Her voice was thick with emotion. Jake led her through the ship. In the mess hall, they found Amy with Jade. The green baby was singing softly while several crew members listened and smiled. In the engine room, Danny was working on a repair while Copper tried to hand him tools, getting it right about half the time. Lisa was on the bridge with Violet. The purple baby was actually helping plot their course to Draken Prime, understanding the star charts in a way that seemed instinctive. Kelly was in medical with Luna, who was curled up peacefully on a bed, sleeping. And in the crew quarters, they found Marcus and Graham sitting together with the Sapphire twins nestled between them, all for taking a nap. By the time they had seen all 7 babies, Ambassador Kalara had tears running down her scaled face. You have done the impossible, she said to Jake, not just saving them, but truly caring for them. I can see it in how they trust you, how they have bonded. This is beyond what I ever imagined. We were just doing our job, Jake said. He felt uncomfortable seeing her cry. No, Captain Morrison, this is far beyond duty. Kalara took a deep breath, trying to calm herself. These babies are royalty, Captain. The smallest one you carry, Ember, is the firstborn of Empress Serena herself. She is the heir to the throne. The twins are heirs to the Northern Court. All 7 are among the most important young in our entire empire. If we had lost them, it would have been a disaster. But you saved them. You humans saved them without even knowing who they were. Jake nearly dropped Ember in shock. He had known the babies were important, but this was beyond what he had imagined. He looked down at the small red dragon in his arms. This tiny creature that chirped and played and slept against his chest was going to rule an empire someday over the next hour. As the Ranger docked with Draken Prime's orbital station, Kalara explained what had happened. The babies had been stolen by a group that wanted to hurt the Empire. They had planned to hold the babies for ransom, but something had gone wrong with their plan. The criminals had run away, leaving the babies in the derelict ship where the Ranger had found them. We must return them to the royal nursery immediately, Kalara said, as they prepared to leave the ship. The Empress is waiting. But when the crew members tried to hand over their babies, something unexpected happened. The young dragons became very upset. Ember clung to Jake's uniform and shrieked when a royal caretaker tried to take it. Jade wrapped herself around Amy's neck and refused to let go. The twins absolutely would not separate from Marcus and Graham. They have imprinted, said one of the Draconid doctors who had come with He was an elderly male with silver-white scales. This is highly unusual, but not completely new. Babies sometimes bond with their rescuers, but bonding with an entirely different species, I have never heard of this before. Can it be undone? Lisa asked. Her arms tightened around Violet as she spoke. Undone. The doctor looked shocked. Why would we want to undo it? This bond may have saved their lives. Breaking it could cause severe psychological trauma to the babies. Kalara thought about this for a moment. Then she made a decision. The Empress will want to see this herself. Captain Morrison, would you and your crew agree to meet with Her Imperial Majesty? With the babies present, Jake looked at his crew. He saw hope and worry on their faces. He nodded. We would be honored. The Imperial Palace on Draken Prime was beautiful beyond words. It was made of crystal that seemed to grow naturally, forming tall spires that reached into the sky. The architecture seemed to blend biology and technology together in ways that Jake had never seen before. The crew of the Ranger, each still carrying their bonded baby, was led through halls lined with Draconid courtiers who whispered and stared at them. Finally, they arrived at the throne room. Empress Serena was enormous, easily twice the size of Kalara. Her scales shimmered and changed through every color of the rainbow. Her eyes, the same golden color as Ember's, looked at the human crew with an intensity that was almost physical. So, the Empress spoke. Her voice resonated through the chamber like music. These are the humans who saved my daughter. She rose from her throne and walked toward Jake. Ember, for the first time since bonding with him, showed signs of recognition. The small baby chirped excitedly and reached toward the Empress, but Ember did not let go of Jake. The Empress's eyes softened. Ember, she said gently, my little flame, do you not know your mother? Ember chirped again, looking between Jake and the Empress. The baby was clearly torn. The message was obvious. Ember wanted both of them. The Empress looked at Jake for a long moment, then she did something that shocked everyone in the room. She knelt down, bringing herself to human eye level. Captain Jake Morrison of Earth, she said formally, you have saved my daughter's life. You have cared for her when I could not. You have given her warmth, safety, and love when she had none. In my empire there is a tradition for such debts. Your Majesty, I do not want any reward, Jake started to say, but the Empress held up a hand to stop him. This is not a reward. This is a recognition. You, and each member of your crew who has bonded with a baby, are hereby declared Clutchkin. You are family to these young ones, and by extension, to the royal house itself. A gasp went through the assembled Draconid. Apparently, this was very important. What does that mean, exactly? Lisa asked carefully. Kellera answered. Her voice was reverent. It means you have the rights and responsibilities of blood family. It means the babies are yours to raise, if you choose to accept. It means humanity and the Draconid Empire are now bound by the strongest tie we know, family. Jake looked down at Ember. The baby gazed back at him with complete trust. He thought about the risks. He thought about how complicated this would make his life. He thought about how impossible this all seemed. Then he thought about the moment when he had first held this tiny creature, thinking it was going to die, and how he had silently promised to keep it safe. I accept, he said quietly. Around him, one by one, the other crew members said the same word. Amy had tears in her eyes. Lisa had a stunned smile on her face. Danny was practically shaking with excitement. Kelly looked calm and certain. Marcus and Graham spoke together, at the same time. The Empress smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth in what was clearly joy. Then, welcome to the family, Clutchkin. We have much to teach you about raising young dragons. The formal ceremony lasted for hours. Jake learned that being declared Clutchkin was not just symbolic. It meant real legal rights and responsibilities. It meant the human crew members were now officially part of the Draconin royal family. It meant their children, if they had any, would have a place in the royal succession. It meant humanity and the Draconid Empire were bound together in ways that went beyond any treaty or alliance. When the ceremony finally ended, Jake found himself alone with Empress Serena in a private chamber. Ember was sleeping peacefully in his arms. You know what this means for your people, do you not? The Empress asked. I am starting to understand, Jake replied. The other species in the galaxy, they have watched humanity with suspicion. You are young, impulsive, unpredictable, but what you have done here, saving my daughter, caring for her without thought of reward, bonding with her across species lines, this shows something important. What does it show? That humans understand what truly matters: family, love, loyalty. These are not human concepts or Draconid concepts. These are universal concepts, and you have shown that you value them above all else. The Empress reached out and gently stroked Ember's head. The baby stirred but did not wake. I am trusting you with the most precious thing in my world, she continued. My firstborn child, the heir to my throne. I am trusting you to raise her, to teach her, to love her. Do you understand the weight of that trust? Jake met the Empress's eyes. I do, Your Majesty, and I promise I will not fail you, or her. The Empress nodded. I know you will not. That is why I chose this path. Now, come, there is much to discuss. You cannot raise dragon babies without proper knowledge. Over the next week, Jake and his crew remained on Draken Prime. They learned about Draconid biology, culture, and child-rearing practices. They learned what foods the babies needed as they grew. They learned about the different stages of development. They learned how to help the babies learn to fly properly. The babies themselves were thriving. Ember had grown noticeably and could now fly short distances. Jade's singing had developed into complex melodies. Violet's navigation skills were becoming even more precise. Copper was learning engineering concepts that most adults would struggle with. Luna's healing sense was so accurate that the Draconin medical staff wanted to study it. And Sky and Storm had developed a bond so deep that they could apparently share thoughts. On the last day before the Ranger was scheduled to return to Earth, Empress Serena held a private dinner for the crew. It was just the humans, their bonded babies, the Empress, and Ambassador Clara. I have a proposal, the Empress said as they ate. The success of your bonding with the royal babies has inspired many in my empire. There are other clutchers, other babies who could benefit from the human talent for cross-species bonding. I would like to establish a formal program, an exchange between our peoples. What kind of exchange? Jake asked. Draconid babies spending time with human families, learning your ways. Human younglings spending time on Draken Prime, learning ours. A true cultural integration, building on the foundation you and your crew have created. Jake stroked Ember's head. The baby was eating small pieces of crystallized minerals, crunching them happily. That is ambitious, Your Majesty. My daughter was dying in the cold of space, the Empress said. Her voice was soft but intense. And you, a member of a species we barely knew, held her against your heart and willed her to live. If that is not ambitious, I do not know what is. She looked at each of the crew members. You have shown us that family is not limited by species or blood. You have given us hope for a future where our peoples are truly united. Will you help me build that future? Jake thought about the past few weeks, about the challenges and the joys of raising Ember, about how his entire crew had adapted to their new roles as dragon parents, about the friendships forming between humans and draconids, built on the foundation of 7 small babies and the people who had refused to let them die. We would be honored to help, Your Majesty, he said. 3 months had passed since the ceremony that made the crew of the Ranger official clutchkin to the Draconid royal family. Earth Space Command had been surprisingly understanding about the whole situation. This was probably because the Draconid Empire had signed a comprehensive alliance treaty with humanity right after. They had opened trade routes, they had shared advanced technology. Jake suspected his superiors would have agreed to just about anything after the Draconids had given humanity the secret to their bioregenerative hull technology. That one gift alone had advanced human space travel by decades. The Ranger had been given a new mission. It would serve as an embassy ship between Earth and Draken Prime. Jake and his crew would act as liaisons between the two species. It was perfect, really. None of them could be separated from their babies for more than a few days without both the humans and the dragons becoming upset. Jake stood in his expanded quarters aboard the newly refitted Ranger. He watched Ember practice flying. The small dragon was nearly twice the size it had been when they first met. Ember was now about the size of a medium dog. The scales had developed into a brilliant crimson that caught the light beautifully. "Come on, Ember," Jake encouraged. "You almost had it last time." Ember chirped with determination. The dragon crouched on a specially installed perch and leaped, wings spread wide. Ember glided across the room. The dragon managed 3 full seconds of actual flight before tumbling into Jake's waiting arms. "Better," Jake praised. He gently straightened a bent wing. "Another few weeks and you will be doing loops." Someone knocked at the door. "Come in," Jake called. Lisa entered with Violet perched on her shoulder. The purple dragon had grown even faster than Ember and could now fly with impressive agility. "We have a situation in the mess hall you need to see." Jake followed her, with Ember scrambling up to ride on his shoulders. This was Ember's favorite position now. In the mess hall, they found Danny and Amy trying to separate Copper and Jade. The 2 dragons were having what could only be described as a sibling fight over a particular piece of crystallized mineral. The Draconid nutritionist had said the babies needed these minerals in their diet. "They have been at it for 10 minutes. Amy sighed. "I swear they are worse than human children, because they are children," Kelly reminded her. She entered with Luna, who immediately flew over to the quarreling dragons and made a sharp, commanding trill. Both Copper and Jade stopped fighting immediately and looked ashamed. Luna landed between them, picked up the disputed mineral in her small claws, and deliberately broke it in half. She gave each fighter a piece. "I am still not sure if Luna is the youngest or the oldest emotionally," Kelly said thoughtfully. "Wisest, definitely," Jake agreed. He watched the silver dragon return to Kelly with obvious satisfaction. The door opened again. Marcus and Graham entered with the Sapphire twins. Sky and Storm were the largest of the dragons now. They moved with an eerie synchronization that both fascinated and slightly unnerved everyone who saw it. "Captain, we have an incoming transmission from Draken Prime," Graham reported. "It is Empress Serena. She is asking for you specifically." Jake made his way to the bridge with Ember still on his shoulders. He activated the communication channel. The Empress's face appeared on the view screen. Her eyes immediately found Ember. "My daughter grows strong," Serena observed with obvious pride. "You have cared for her well, Clutchkin Jake." "She is amazing, Your Majesty," Jake replied honestly. "Every day she does something new, as it should be. But I am not contacting you merely to check on Ember's progress. I have a request, one that I can only make of someone I trust completely." Jake straightened in his chair. "What do you need?" "The success of your bonding with the royal babies has inspired many in my empire. There are other clutchers, other babies who could benefit from the human talent for cross-species bonding. I would like to establish the formal program we discussed. An exchange between our peoples, the cultural exchange program." Jake asked. "Yes, Draconid babies spending time with human families, learning your ways. Human children studying on Draken Prime, learning ours. A true integration, building on the foundation you and your crew have created." Jake felt Ember nuzzle against his neck. The dragon was listening intently to its mother's voice. "That is very ambitious, Your Majesty." "My daughter was dying in the cold of space," the Empress said. Her voice was soft but strong. "And you, a member of a species we barely knew, held her against your heart and willed her to live. If that is not ambitious, I do not know what is." The Empress's gaze softened. "You have shown us that family is not limited by species or blood. You have given us hope for a future where our peoples are truly united. Will you help me build that future? Jake thought about the past 3 months. He thought about the challenges and the joys of raising Ember. He thought about how his entire crew had adapted to their new roles as dragon parents. He thought about the friendships forming between humans and draconids on both worlds. All of it was built on the foundation of 7 small babies and the people who had refused to let them die. We would be honored to help, Your Majesty, he said. The Empress's smile was radiant. Excellent. I will send the details shortly. And Jake, thank you for everything. After the transmission ended, Jake sat in the captain's chair. He gently stroked Ember's scales. The dragon purred, a deep rumbling sound that vibrated through both of them. Lisa approached quietly. Do you ever regret it, taking on all of this? Jake looked around the bridge. He saw his crew at their stations, each with their bonded dragon nearby. Amy was teaching Jade to harmonize with the ship's communication systems. The green dragon's singing was actually improving the clarity of their long-range transmissions. Danny and Copper were already planning modifications to the engine room to make space for a growing dragon. Kelly and Luna were reviewing medical files. The silver dragon's healing sense was proving invaluable for diagnosing illnesses early. Marcus and Graham had the twins helping with tactical simulations. The dragon's synchronized thinking was providing unique strategic insights that no computer could match. Regret it, Jake echoed. Then he smiled. Lisa, 3 months ago I was a simple scout captain doing supply runs along the frontier. Now I am a father to a dragon princess. I am helping to forge an alliance between species, and apparently I am about to become part of the most ambitious cultural exchange program in galactic history. That does not really answer my question, Lisa pointed out. Jake lifted Ember off his shoulders. He held the dragon in front of him. Golden eyes met his. They were full of trust and affection and mischief and intelligence far beyond what her age would suggest. Ember chirped happily and breathed a tiny puff of flame. It was her first fire. Just a spark really, but unmistakably flame. No, Jake said softly. He brought Ember back against his chest. She immediately settled there with a contented sigh. I do not regret a single moment. Outside the view screen, Draken Prime hung in space. It was beautiful and alien, and somehow, impossibly, it felt like home. The Ranger's sensors picked up dozens of Draconid ships moving about their business. Mixed among them were more and more human vessels. 2 species learning to live together, learning to trust each other, learning to become family. And it had all started with 7 restless dragon babies and the humans who had refused to let them go. Jake smiled. He ran his hand gently over Ember's scales. He felt the steady beat of her heart beneath his palm. They were synced perfectly with his own heartbeat. All right, everyone, he called out to his crew. Let us go home. Both of them. As the Ranger began its journey back to Earth, carrying its unusual crew and their even more unusual family members, Jake thought about the strange path his life had taken. He had set out to find missing babies. He had ended up finding something far more valuable. He had found proof that the bonds of family could transcend anything, even the vast differences between species. In his arms, Ember dreamed. The dragon dreamed of flying among the stars, safe and warm and loved. And somewhere, in the Grand Palace on Draken Prime, an Empress watched the Ranger's departure on her screens. She smiled, knowing her daughter was exactly where she belonged, with her family. With the human who had held her against his heart when all seemed lost, and whispered, "Do not give up." The future stretched ahead, bright and full of possibilities. Human children would grow up playing with dragon babies. Draconid youth would learn human customs and language. Families would form across species lines. Understanding would replace suspicion. Trust would replace fear. All because one human captain had made a choice. When faced with a dying alien baby, he had not thought about politics or species or differences. He had simply held the small creature close and shared his warmth. Sometimes the biggest changes come from the smallest acts of kindness. Jake looked down at Ember one more time. The dragon was sleeping peacefully, tiny claws gripping his uniform gently. He thought about all the challenges ahead. Raising a dragon princess would not be easy. Helping to build bridges between 2 very different species would be even harder. But as he felt Ember's steady breathing, as he saw the contentment on her small face, he knew he would face those challenges gladly, because this was family now.